I'm Mandy.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is The Coop.
This is Coop Faves, where we share our favorite homeschooling resources and adventures. Today is California Out of the Box.
Ooh.
So this is a curriculum I'm going to try and pare down real quick to talk about in the context of how we do the faves.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep it to, a 10-minute ditty.
Tough.
It is. But I loved it.
Aww.
And it was great. And I think I can be concise.
Okay.
So California Out of the Box is just that. It's a unit study that's basically ready to go for you. So what I loved was that Christine Echeverry of Carrier Shell Curriculum, she writes this out like a school teacher. You can tell it's going to meet standards. It's very well organized with different units, different parts, different sections. And then it has appendices with tables and charts that you can reproduce for multiple students. Mm-hmm. So this teacher guide is pretty spectacular. I went through it, broke it down into what I needed, and loved all of the suggestions, didn't use everything, added a few things, and customized an entire California study out of it.
How did you find out about it?
I think I was researching California curriculums.
Okay, so just on your own.
Yeah.
Like no one,
I wanted to do a California study, and rather than put it together from scratch, I thought, well, what's out there?
Yeah.
And I checked, and I think I did unit study. I think I said California, or maybe I did curriculum. Either way, this came up, and then I researched it, and they have a history with homeschooling. They're not stuck on this meets fourth grade standards. Right. It's for grades 3 to 6.
I love it.
And they begin in prehistory through the 1930s. And so I took a chance.
Cool.
Yep, I love it. So I was already explaining a little bit of what it is, but I'll dive in a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. So it's truly a unit study in that it covers science, social studies, history, and literature. Mm-hmm. And I love that. It includes geography and those social sciences as well. And so it really gets the student and the teacher, the parent educator connected in all things California. So I felt very much like it was very well rounded. I didn't feel like we were jumping all over the place. I thought we had such great ways of being really in it. It breaks the content into 5 units, beginning with prehistory, ancient times, learning about how the geography of California was formed and what we know about the earliest inhabitants, all the way through the Great Depression.
Wow. So
it was nice that it was broken down only into 5 units and still was able to cover all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. It has many supplements. Some were suggested. Some are included in it. And so you really do want to buy it because it's a part of what they suggest you go through.
Yeah, the book looks like it's about a little over an inch thick.
And I think I ripped out a good chunk of it because I actually, there's a huge chunk I ripped out.
So probably 2 inches thick?
Mm-hmm, because I included them in a separate spiral bind because I needed to scan them. I didn't want to only Xerox them for an old school term for you. So I wanted to scan them and have them and print them the way that I wanted them printed because I don't ever just do anything out of the box exactly as it's given. I have to customize it. So I definitely can see my book is a little taped up. There's some tape on the binding. So it was definitely a thick book. Mm-hmm. But I love that it includes supplies. Mm-hmm. Here's everything you're going to need for this unit. And then it gives you kind of a breakdown on what you're going to do. They lay it out into weeks. Mm-hmm. And so it suggests what you should do every week.
How many weeks?
Let's see.
I feel like it looks like a year.
It's meant to be an entire school year.
Okay.
Yeah. So it goes through weeks 35, 36.
Yeah, okay.
So it's meant to be an entire school year, but I did this in one semester because we were just really dove into this topic and kind of did nothing else except math and this because it's a unit study.
Yeah, cool.
It checked all the boxes of all the other subjects I needed to be working on. So I have 4 reasons why it's a
Oh,
favorite.
how dare you.
I added an extra. It's well-rounded. I already said that. But I love that it just really touched on all these different things that I wouldn't have thought to include.
That's so
I'm not
cool.
sure I would have included all of these things. And so I love that it went into habitats, animals, it went into geology, it went into geography, it went into all kinds of things that just really makes California what it is. A second favorite is because it's an excellent, or it has excellent additional resources. As I mentioned, some were required. So it has the California Coast Reader, which includes different stories, short stories that you read together and then discuss as they relate to each topic. Then there's the actual California Out of the Box supplement, has similar materials in there. It encouraged us to buy the National Audubon Society Field Guide to California.
That's cool.
This book I adore. I could probably do a faves just on this book. It just came on our
Wow.
recent road trip with us.
Yeah, I was wondering, if you used it?
Oh yeah, and I used it to identify things that we saw because it's specific to California. I'm not going to have to decide if I'm seeing something
Yeah.
that only appears in the East Coast.
Right.
I know these animals or plants or whatever live here. So
That's
what
so
could I be
cool.
seeing?
I
And
love
so
it.
it was really neat. It has some amazing things. And the California Out of the Box curriculum has the student use this, describes what page it's on, and really teaches them how
so
to
cool.
use this book.
I love that.
So I want this book forever. It's going to go on every road trip when we're in California because it was so useful.
I like the
highly
size
recommend.
too. It can
Yes.
fit in almost like a male's pocket.
Yes. It's almost like a pocket field guide. You know, you could put it in your fanny pack. It was in my backpack when we hiked. I took it on hikes.
Yeah.
So it was no joke that I love this
Yeah.
book.
Well, and that's one of the reasons I love unit studies is
Mm-hmm.
because they have vetted their resources and they have only given you the best ones.
Yes. Another one that I really loved was Roughing It by Mark Twain. And this one is such a unique one. It's hard to find any copies of. And I can't remember if Carrier Shell, who makes California Out of the Box, sold this or if they linked me to Amazon where I found it. But it's almost more like a textbook, a collection. But what I learned was once I dove into the actual book, the California Out of the Box curriculum, rather, they offered a link to an audio version.
Oh.
So instead of
Oh my
us
goodness.
reading it from this big old book that I
You
bought,
could have just listened.
and it's fine. It's a great resource. I love Mark Twain. And just to hear his adventures here in California is actually really
So
great.
cool.
So I don't mind.
Who knew that was out there?
Yeah, but for my kids and for me, since unit studies tend to be very read aloud heavy, it was really nice to just be able to play the audio. And it tells you
it's
exactly where to
awesome.
stop it. It says, now pause it at minute 8
Oh.
and then ask your student these questions.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can really customize how much you use it based on that. The other resource I really loved was the IEW Student Resource Notebook. So I'd always been curious about IEW.
Yeah, me
I
too.
know a lot of people rave about it. It sounds like
He
a
comes
great
and
thing.
speaks at the conference.
Andrew Pudawa is lovely. But I hadn't used it and I haven't implemented a true language arts curriculum for my child yet. So I thought that this was really great and it encouraged them to use this in which sections. And so it was awesome. It just has like these simple little lists, words to contrast, but on the other hand, unlike. So it's all of these great phrases so that you're not always using the same one.
Yeah.
So it adds some flavor and diversity to their language, which I thought was really great. And for my kid who happens to love to write, this is great for her.
It's always great after someone writes to go back and look at their word choice.
How many times did you say the same phrase?
Yeah.
What other interesting ways can you say it?
Yeah.
You know,
how
and
can you
so
start
it's
your
nice.
sentences differently?
Yeah. And then it's the literature that really makes it for me. So this is a literature-based curriculum. The literature books they chose I thought were fantastic. It starts with Island of the Blue Dolphins. It goes on to Valley of the Moon, which is part of the Dear America series I wasn't familiar with it beforehand, but other people were like, "Whoa, is that from Dear
cool.
Dear America?" Yeah, sure. But I really enjoyed that book. It's based on real events, you know, and it was great. By the Great Horn Spoon, which I don't think I read as a kid, but it's kind of on a lot of lists of must-read books for that age group, and we really enjoyed it. My son really thought it was funny, so that was cute. Then there was The Earth Dragon Awakes by Lawrence Yep. And the last one, which was really great, was Esperanza Rises. So this is a current book that's talked about a lot. It's on a lot of book lists.
Yeah.
You see this all the time. It's a Pura Belpré Award winner.
We love books with medals on them.
As you can tell. But Pan Munoz Ryan, it was really great to hear her talk about how she wrote this book and her inspiration for it. So it has a deep meaning to her. And she also is the author of the book Echo, which is really popular for middle grade fiction. So,
did you read aloud these books yourself, or did you audiobook them?
I audiobooked everything I possibly could. Valley of the Moon and Earth Dragon Awakes were not available by Read Aloud. I even tried the free trial on that app where you take pictures and then you can have different voices read. So Gwyneth Paltrow was reading Valley of the Moon, but there's a lot of margin for error if you don't take the picture just right. If it doesn't interpret it.
Picture of every
page, which could have been worth it because this was a big book for me to read aloud. But I think some of the font or the type in this particular book, the app just didn't pick up, you know, I think. So it doesn't matter. But we had to read some aloud, so we just take turns, and that was challenging. But my daughter loves to read, so at the end of the day, a literature-based curriculum worked well for us. Another reason it's a favorite was because it left room to expand. I could pause where we were and I could add other things to it. So I really enjoyed the way that you could customize it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But it also stood alone. So if you didn't, that was that. And then 4, it inspired adventures beyond what was purely historical. So it wasn't just a California history. Like I said, we got to understand the ecologies and all kinds of things. And so it took us on explorations that were
it's so cool.
so exciting.
I love it.
So how did I use it? As I said, I only used it for one semester. So we started it in January, ended it it was more like June. But we went at our own pace and got through all those important things I wanted to. So we just made it our primary focus, and it was great. I paired it with California History for Kids, which is just it's more like history-based activities. So it gives you a lot of learning. Not everything was the same. And so I found ways to pair it. It just took a lot of prep work on my end to go, I don't want to say that over again. But sometimes it presents a different side of something that I thought was really great. And then it had a lot of hands-on activities, which, to be honest, isn't the jam of my household. So we didn't do a lot of those, but they were there and they were interesting to talk about.
Those take a lot of prep work too. Yeah,
they do. And then I also felt like it needed a little bit more when it came to the discussions on Angel Island. So I did some of my own research and I came up with Lee on Angel Island, and we read that. And I had another supplemental book. So I liked that I could still build on it and it didn't feel separate. But yeah, it was great. And then I planned a lot of experiences for us. And so I got to utilize our co-op, our Coop group, and planned field trips for that. We went to the tide pools and the Cambrio National Monument. We went to 3 local missions, which was super fantastic. And then we did a living history day at a mining company. So the kids got to go and pretend they were 49ers.
I think I went to all those except for one mission because one of us was sick.
Yep.
But it was really great.
It was. Yeah. It was so much fun, and it was fun to do with our friends, whether they were studying it or not.
Yeah.
They could have stood alone, and it was great.
I read, I think, Mystery of the Missions or something.
Yeah, the Mission Trail.
The Mission Trail. And then I read 1 or 2 little pamphlet history books.
Yeah.
But it was enough to enjoy the experience with the missions and the Living History Day and the Cabrillo National Monument, where I felt like, okay, I checked off those standards that my charter school is requiring me to do.
Yep,
So
done. Then I also planned experiences just for my family. Sometimes it was just my kids, my parents joined us, and then my husband and I took the kids on an adventure. So we went to Queen Califia's Magic Circle, which is in a local park.
Yeah.
It's a huge art installation by Nikki de Saint Fale. I can't remember how to say her name, but
nice try.
This is one of her last pieces of work, and it was so huge she had to do it in stages, and she had this huge workshop down in La Jolla that she was working on at Rancho Santa Fe, and then they had to transfer it into the park because she couldn't be out there in the park working on it. So it's really unique and special that we have this in our backyard. It's almost very odd.
Nobody really knows about it too. It's
and
really
they have terrible hours.
It's barely open. I had tried to go a couple times since we've moved here, and then just forgot about it because I was like, oh, they're never open,
right?
Or they were open during nap time, or
exactly,
something.
9 to 12 or something like that on Tuesdays and Thursdays only.
Yeah.
But what's really cool is if you're not familiar with Queen Califia, it's a myth on how California came to be, and so it's a really neat myth. And then she has all of these beautiful sculptures, and they're all like little mosaics. It's really hot because they glare off the sun, and so it's spectacular, but it's also just a really
reflective area.
And then my family, we went on a hike at a Native American Interpretive Center, and so that was really cool to just be able to be present in that. And then my husband and I took the kids on a Channel Islands trip. So we went up and saw Mission Santa Barbara. We took the ferry to Channel Islands, and we got to explore and hike on such a beautiful place that's not really been touched, and it's really magical. So that was really fantastic. And then we hit Mission San Buenaventura in Ventura on the way home, and it was a great trip. So it's just really neat to be able to do all of those things because I found such a great curriculum that was super inspiring.
Yeah, what a magical year that was for you.
Yeah. I highly recommend California Out of the Box. Thanks for listening. We love your support. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review to let us know how we're doing, and share our podcast with your friends who need a little community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling.